So good evening and welcome to the April 11th meeting of council. He says as he puts his glasses on, the city of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. Before we even start tonight, I want to congratulate the Oceanside Generals for a great season that they had. Last week, had the privilege of Brian Weiss and myself went to North Saanich and watched the final hockey game where they lost the series in overtime. Regrettable, but gosh, both teams played really well. And I just wanted to give them the congratulations they deserve for such a great season. So moving right on. Minutes of the council meeting held, the consent agenda, sorry. Minutes of the council meeting held March 21st, 2022. And the special council meetings held March 23rd and March 30th, and the approval of the council meeting agenda. I need a mover and a seconder for all three as a consent. Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Presentations. Manager of Special Projects is up for his update on the Parksville Community Center.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Michael Lonsdale. I'm one of the city's managers of special projects, and I'm here to do a brief presentation on the progress that we have made as part of the Parksville Community Center renovations. So before we get started, I thought it'd be helpful to do a quick project overview. This project is funded by the Childcare BC New Spaces Fund, as well as the Union of BC Municipalities, providing over $2 million worth of grant funding for 91 new licensed childcare spaces, 2 24-passenger shuttles, as well as enhanced indoor community spaces, and construction of new outdoor community use and recreation spaces. We've got a schematic drawing of the Parksville Community Center on the left there, and that is going to be going on throughout the presentation to help everybody kind of stay oriented in where we're looking within the building. And for any folks that might not be fully familiar with the community center or where some of the locations of the exterior improvements are going, I thought this might be helpful. We are obviously in City Hall in the bottom right here at the moment, and then in behind us is our cenotaph. Next to City Hall is the Parksville Community Center where our project is taking place, and then there's some parking just over from there. And then for the exterior spaces, these are the areas that are being affected as part of these renovations. So down in the bottom left, we have some shuttle parking that's being established as part of this project. And then moving up, immediately adjacent to the community center, we have the 2 to 5 play space, and then the birth to age 3 play space. And then across the drive aisle in the green space in behind City Hall and the community center, we have the large community and out of school play space that's being constructed. So getting in kind of room by room of what we're doing, the former meeting room in the back corner, you can see in that plan highlighted in red, that is going to be turned into a birth to age 3 care space. We are installing a large nap room where the children will be able to have some quiet time and go down for a nap, as well as a new washroom with 2 stalls, as well as a large change area. A lot of the kids in there are going to be in diapers and need to be taken care of there. The flooring in that whole space is being replaced, as well as in the other care space with the flooring that you can see in the bottom right of the slide there, which is a very robust kind of linoleum. And we've got a really nice looking maple pattern rather that's going into the space. Hopefully this will help council picture what we are doing in the space. You can see the furniture that has been purchased for this care space. That furniture, interestingly, it is locally sourced, locally made, and locally designed. It is from Forest Stewardship Council timber that was harvested here on Vancouver Island. It's been designed here on Vancouver Island. It's been constructed again, locally here on Vancouver Island, and is getting delivered to us just from the Cowichan Valley. As well, it comes with a 10-year unlimited warranty, which the city will have. So that furniture is very robust and is going to be with us for a good time. And then in the bottom right, you can see a rendering of the change in washroom that's being installed in the space. Here's some pictures updating on construction. We started demolition in February, and we were able to get the old carpet tiles taken out without damaging the subfloor, which is great. That was a real bonus for the project. And then we started adding in plumbing, electrical work, fire alarms, HVAC, drywall, all of that kind of stuff through March and April, bringing us up to now. And then in the bottom right, you can see the new exterior door that leads out to the play space, which we have a conceptual drawing of here. And the focus for the play spaces has been mainly on natural play elements, which is a very desirable design for childcare spaces and community use spaces nowadays. So we've got things like a log round sandbox, stump table and stools, as well as some little stepping stone paths for the kids to play on. And within that play space, you can see the clearing and site preparation is underway, and construction should be starting out there fairly shortly. Now moving in to the 2.5 to 5-year-old spaces, we have a somewhat similar layout in here where we've got a large flexible activity area with a nap room off on one side, and then new washrooms being established on the other side. In there we have 2 regular stalls and then 1 accessible stall, as well as another change area just in case it's needed, and some new sinks going in. The children in the care areas are each going to have their own cubbies, which are being installed outside of those care areas. And you can see on the bottom, we've got a fun, colorful pattern with those cubbies to help brighten up the space, as well as some nice, neutral, natural colors chosen for the cabinetry that's going in. Here you can see some renderings of that play space again, as well as the cubbies that are being installed outside of the play areas. So we have more of that same furniture that we had sourced for the other play area going into this space, and you can see the configuration, or one of the potential configurations of the room. I really like the story time area that's been set up around the existing fireplace. That's going to be sticking around through the renovations, and will be a nice feature in the space during the childcare time. And then in the bottom right, you can see a picture of the furniture in action in another care area. So those are the same tables and benches and so forth that are being purchased and brought in that the city will be owning in this space. And then moving into construction, in February, we were doing demolition and having to cut through the foundation slab to put in new plumbing for that washroom and new potable water and drainage, as well as removing the old carpet that was in the area to be able to put in the new flooring. Since then, again, we've got new plumbing, electrical, fire alarms, HVAC, drywall all going in, and the nap space being established. As part of the project, we are replacing the entire fire detection and alarm system within the community center. That is to bring it up to the new BC building code and make it compliant with that code. And then similarly, in the bottom right, we have a new exterior door leading out to the new play space. And again, this is kind of a conceptual layout of that play space. There's a few things that are getting tweaked in the last, final minutes as we're wrapping up design and working our way through construction. But this gives you a good idea of some of the features that will be out in that space. Again, with a focus on natural play elements for the children. So things like balance and play logs, garden beds for the kids to be able to enjoy. And then at the top, you can see the willow tunnel, which is a really fun feature that will be kind of a living play element that the children are able to interact with. They can decorate for seasonal holidays, all of that kind of fun stuff. And similarly, that space is also under construction with clearing and site prep underway. And to wrap up the areas that are part of the Parksville Child and Family Center, we have procured 2 24-passenger shuttles. These shuttles will be used to take the children from before school care over to local schools, and then pick them up at the end of the day and bring them back to the after-school care for their caregivers to be able to pick them up at the end of the day. And these 2 shuttles will be arriving in June. Now moving into the community spaces that are affected as part of these renovations. We're starting out in the old executive director's office down in the bottom of the diagram in the middle, and that is being converted into a universal washroom with private stalls. The architect was able to get this design so that we are not impacting the windows that are already in that space, and we're able to save them and save a fair bit of project budget as well and allocate it elsewhere. So we are going to have 5 private stall, regular kind of washrooms, and then 1 accessible stall as well. They'll have floor to ceiling walls in between each unit and a door so that everybody has privacy, and then shared sinks and mirror area, as you can see in the oblique drawing in the bottom right. Here is a couple of renderings of that universal washroom. And an update on the construction progress in there, where again, we've got plumbing and electrical and fire alarms and so forth going into the space, along with framing and drywall happening now. Now within the gym, let's see if this cooperates with me here. 50% of the time it works every time. There we go. So we've got this little video showing the center roll divider that's going to be installed in the gym, which will divide the gym kind of along here to allow for different activities to be happening in that gym. So different user groups are able to use either side of the gym. The divider is being installed on the existing joists in the gym, and it only comes down about 14 inches off of that joist. So you'll never really notice that it's there once it's up. And then when it's down, it gives that degree of separation for a bit more of a private space. Or for out of school care, you could have kids doing homework on one side and kicking around a soccer ball or what have you on the other side. On the bottom right, you can see the colors that we are using for that divider. And we're looking at putting a City of Parksville logo on it. You've probably seen in the video there that they've got, you know, different sports logos. So again, we're trying to get the city's logo put on this as well. There we go. And now moving to the far right of the diagram, we've got this nice little space that always seems bright and cheerful with all the windows there, and it looks out to the library. And we thought it would be a great space to have a book nook put in there for people to be able to sit, relax, have a quiet moment or a conversation. So we have some benches, again, from that same furniture manufacturer, and some low bookshelves that are going into that area. So folks can sit and have a rest and relax in the area. All of those are on casters, so it can all get reconfigured or moved out of there if it just doesn't work for whatever the use of the community center is at any given time. Now moving over to the left of the gymnasium into one of the old storage areas, we have a meeting space being installed. So in this area, this can get used as rentable space for the community. And I also believe BGC, the new operators of the community center, are planning on hosting teen groups in the area in this room. So we have, again, from the same furniture manufacturer, but this time we've got kind of the adult version of the tables and chairs. Going into there, those tables are pretty clever. They just nest in beautifully together. So you can have one nicer, longer boardroom where you can kind of break it up like they have here. And then we've got what we've been calling kind of the fire pit conversation area in the back of the room. As well, in the bottom right, you can see the Parksville blue dry erase board. So there's a large one getting installed into this meeting space and 2 smaller ones that are going into each of the care areas as well. Within this project, we've been working really hard to try and make the community center available for public use whenever possible. That's definitely been a challenge along the way, but it's something that I'm really proud to say we've been able to achieve. So the Island Health COVID-19 vaccination clinic was up and running for a good initial portion of this project before Island Health decided to relocate those resources elsewhere. BGC has hosted a March break teen event in the area that I understand they had full registration for and was well received with those that attended. With School District 69, the past Woodwinds Culinary Arts Program has been using the kitchen every week during this project and has had uninterrupted access to that space. And I understand they plan to continue doing so next year as well. We've had a few meeting and kind of training activities going on where larger groups needed to get together and needed the space to be able to do so. So following the renovations, we want to make sure that the space is ready for community use and ready to welcome the community back in without any restrictions, if at all possible. So these are some of the activities that I understand are either planned or the new operators have heard from the community about, or what we're keeping in mind as we're teeing up these renovations. So the Canadian Blood Services blood drive, municipal elections, provincial and federal elections, town hall meetings, sports groups, performing arts groups, community groups, private parties and celebrations, fundraising banquets, and meetings and public engagement. So as we're working through this, we're really working hard, trying to make a space for everyone in the community center and making sure that the Parksville Community Center is here for Parksville. So going back again to that initial plan, showing everybody where the exterior improvements are happening, I thought it might be helpful to kind of see how that blends into the existing space where we're trying to utilize those existing green areas as much as we can and keep the budget focused on improvements that are there for the care spaces and there for the community, and not replacing good infrastructure just because it's in slightly the wrong spot. Which I'm pretty happy to say we're not doing. So you can see along the bottom, the birth to age 3 play space, as well as the age 2.5 to 5 play space, the parking area for the kitchen, the sidewalks, all of that stuff is staying where it is. We're not doing any replacements on that, aside from adding in a letdown where we need to facilitate crosswalks over to that large new out of school community play space. So this is a space that will be used for the out of school care, but is also available for community use without restriction, just like any of our parks or playgrounds throughout the city. As well, you can see there, I tried to blend it out in kind of the top right of the rendering area with the symbology where the trees are and where the trees are within the satellite photo. We're planning on keeping those trees and integrating in the mature trees into the area and really keeping that natural play element focus throughout. So along the drive aisle, we have some drainage improvements that are getting installed into this area, leading out to an all seasons West Coast bioswale. This bioswale will be a largely dry feature for safety consideration, but a really fun opportunity for the kids to engage with the natural environment and learn about the environment that we all live in here. We also have a play platform that's getting installed, looking out into that bioswale, a large unprogrammed area where the kids can run up and down the berm and have fun, and people can come out, sit up there and enjoy the sun on a nice day. And then some climbing and stepping logs for, again, a unprogrammed play space, but something that really speaks to what kids like to do and to be able to engage in imaginative play. Construction in that area has begun with drainage improvements being installed, and the fencing, I believe, I was chatting with the site supervisor earlier today, the fencing and things like that are going to be getting started as well very shortly. So to summarize, this is what we are doing with that grant funding from the Childcare BC New Spaces Fund, as well as the Union of BC Municipalities, to establish that Parksville Child and Family Center with the 91 new licensed childcare spaces, providing the out-of-school shuttles for school transportation, as well as field trips. We are able to enhance the indoor community use spaces within the Parksville Community Center and establish a new outdoor community use recreation space. The project team has been working very intensely on this project, trying to get a pretty broad scope of work done in as short a time as possible. And I'm really proud to say that right now we're looking like this work should be done within summer of 2022 and be open for use following that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for the manager of special projects? Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Worship. Through your worship to Michael. Just a really quite an incredible project. It looks awesome. You guys have done a great job. I love the natural play areas and how everything all ties in there together. I think it's just, you can obviously tell that it was really well planned out and just you know, a really friendly project to the environment as well So just super impressed. Thank you for all the great work.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, and through you to Michael. Great job. Looks super. I just had a question about the gym divider. It looks like an opaque screen, so it's really not meant as a total privacy, just as a semi-private sort of space. Maybe you could explain that a bit more.
Certainly, if I may, through your worship to Councillor Wilson. The divider is like a mesh on top. I'm not sure the exact dimensions, but that mesh is probably 10, 15 feet above the floor level. And then an opaque, almost like a vinyl or canvas on the bottom. So it provides a visual barrier, but we won't be able to establish an acoustic, like a full acoustic barrier in there. That would be a very expensive proposition, unfortunately.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks, Michael. Great job. Really good. Appreciated all the hard work that you and the team are doing. Thank you. Now, Ms. Welch. Want to talk to us about the Forward House Community Society?
Perfect. Mayor Main, council members, city staff, and guests, thank you for having me here tonight to speak to you about our new Forward Recovery Center, which will be opening in downtown Parksville on June 3rd, 2022. As most of you know, I'm sure, Forward House Community Society has been in the community since 1982. And we became our own charity in 2001 and are currently serving in our house on East Hurst Avenue in Parksville. We've had more than 25 programs going every week for a long time. And we provide a warm, comfortable place for people to come and experience a friendly atmosphere, socialize with others, improve their lives through building skills and building socialization and learning new things. And so we're very proud of the work that we've done in this community over the last few years. With everything that we know about COVID and the opioid crisis, we know that addiction and mental health problems are increasing everywhere. And we know that dealing with mental health needs is part of the issue, but we're also seeing a rise in addiction. About 18 months ago, we started offering specific addiction recovery services out of our house. And we actually had a lovely lady named Sarah Tracy who came onto our board initially and then stepped off our board in order to become the lead in our addiction recovery services. Sarah comes with a wealth of experience. She has nursing experience. She has worked in residential treatment centers. She's worked in hospitals, in prisons. And so she's really seen all parts of the addiction spectrum because she's also had lived experience with addiction. And she has been sober for about 20 years now. and wants to be able to give back to others that are maybe not at that place yet. Over the last 18 months, we've offered a number of services for the folks that come in wanting to embark on an addiction recovery path. We have one-to-one recovery coaching, and this takes all sorts of forms. Some of our clients come every week for an hour. Some are meeting in person, some are getting phone calls, some are being texted. So there's all different ways and lengths of engagements with the clients. It's completely client-led, so they determine how often they need support. We have some support groups that we've offered, and we also do lots of referrals out to other groups that are established in our community, like 12-step programs, Smart Recovery, and some of the other recovery services. We do healthcare navigation. This is really important. I'm sure you all know that the healthcare system is quite complex. And even for those of us who are in it, it can sometimes stymie us as to how to get from point A to point B. So one of the things that Sarah does incredibly well is works with clients to understand who they need to speak to, how they can access services, and make sure that their path is as easy as possible. Thanks to a number of different grants that we've received over the last few years, we've also developed an extensive lending library. We have over 100 books in our library that we can lend to clients that are working through their addiction recovery, and that gives them something that they can take home and study. All of our services are free, confidential, and Sarah also has special culturally safe training so that it is a safe environment for everyone. We recognize that addiction equals isolation, but recovery equals connection. So the opposite of addiction is connection, and we're helping people to feel connected in our community. Every individual that we've seen has their own background, their own journey that they're on, and it's not for us to tell them how to get from point A to point B. We simply walk alongside our clients as they obtain, sustain, and maintain their recovery goals. We have been told by recovery professionals that this center will be the first of its kind in Canada. And that is because the people that are going to lead the center have lived recovery experience themselves. So they've walked the walk and they have an idea of what's needed to help support people. Our services are free, but the most important is that we offer multiple pathways to recovery. We believe that there are many different ways that somebody can walk from being addicted to being recovered. And so we will look at which pathway suits each individual rather than prescribing any one solution for their addiction. Recovery is possible. And last September, we got to celebrate Recovery Month with a number of promotions and our fun t-shirts. You'll see them again this year. Here are some quotes from our clients. I'll just read one of them here. The program's adaptive and flexible, where individual growth and progress is nurtured and respected. We know that for everyone that walks through our door, it takes a great deal of courage. And we know that being welcoming, being friendly, and having some answers for people that are looking for them is really important to help them feel that they're on their journey. So our grand opening is going to be on Thursday, June 2nd from 3 to 6 p.m. We're inviting all the community to come through and see our new space and get a sense of what we do. And we even have some very good refreshments to offer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, it certainly is our pleasure having Forward House in our community. You've done such great work and you continue to do it. It's a great benefit for us. And I know that we get together, we've gotten together several times, and the last time when you came in and told me about the recovery center, I got excited about it. I thought, what a great idea. So good luck on this. You know, as you asked me that day, I will definitely be there on June the 2nd for the opening, and look forward to many years of having Canada's first operation such as this. Are there any questions? Councillor Wilson? Councillor Chandler?
Thank you, and through the mayor to Sharon. Yeah, that was a great presentation. Thank you for this. I do have a question. When you talk about lived experience, will the people who are, I guess, helping along in this line, will some of them have training as well, or how will that work?
Yeah, absolutely. There's all different types of training that can be done. We have training over on the mainland that's available. They help to bring people to a recovery coach status. And so that's one that we would look at. There's all sorts of different training, and just their personal experiences are going to provide a lot of what they need to help people. And Sarah's very knowledgeable. She will head people in the right direction to make sure that they're capable of doing that work. Absolutely.
Councillor Chandler?
Thank you through your mayor, through your worship to Sharon. Just wanted to thank you for, basically from as a member of the community with somebody in addiction and recovering addiction, for all families and all people that are involved in that. I think it's great work you're doing. And I think, according to my brother who's over on the downtown east side, I think that community operations like this are much more effective because you're not dealing with a lot of localized people hanging around too much. It's a real kind of an environment that you can see in your place there. So I embrace this new scenario too as well. I think it's going to be really, really beneficial to the community here, and I appreciate your work on it. So thank you.
Thank you. I saw the meeting that you had with the VHA representatives, and I heard some of the stories that were shared at that, and my heart goes out to all of you that have been touched in some way by addiction. And we just know that, people can't be forced into stopping their addictions. They have to be ready. And our idea is attracting people rather than pulling them in. And so when they're ready to make those changes, we're here to do the best we can to help them through.
Councillor O'Brien?
And thank you, Sharon, for a presentation. Thanks for keeping us up to date. I know already that you're already making a difference in our community with your addiction treatment and mental health treatment. And I know of success stories, and I'm so pleased and I'm so thrilled that you've been able to do it. Other communities talk about it. Someone has to do something. You've taken the lead, you've stepped up, and I thank you very much because it's much needed, as you're aware. And I truly like your approach. It really is. It's an excellent approach. I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you so much.
So we look forward to hearing from you all the time with all your other
You
success
bet.
stories. Thanks, Sharon.
Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing and everything with us today. You did say earlier on that that with the pandemic, we've had a rise in addiction. Do you try and do a count, or do you just are seeing more people maybe come to your door?
It's really interesting, actually. We've had a lot of people that have said to us, oh, your poor clients, they must be doing so poorly in COVID. And, it's really interesting because the clients that have been coming to Forward House for years are doing amazingly well. And perhaps in some cases better than some of us that haven't been the clients, because they're used to those strategies being put in place. They're used to change and ways of dealing with it. And so we've been so proud actually of how our clients have done in COVID. But we know there's lots of people that haven't had that background of having lots of supports and strategies in place. And we're absolutely seeing more of those folks coming through. And the people that we're seeing cross all economic levels. In our mental health services, most of the people we see are living on or below the poverty line. But on the addiction side, it's quite different. And some of the clients we have been in recovery for many years and just needing a little bit of help to sustain. And others are contemplating. We have some clients in one of our groups that all continue to use to some level, but have managed to reduce their use and are looking toward an ultimate goal of abstinence. And so we just take it one person at a time and try to meet people where they're at.
Follow-up?
Not exactly a follow-up per se, but
Close enough. It's a follow-up.
it's a question of sorts. In the past and everything you used to do, I can't think of the name, dessert nights, and that, will those be ongoing again?
We would love to start doing them again. We've been talking about what we're going to do, and it's so great to be able to actually invite people in and to come through. So I'm sure we will be doing a number of events, and I do guarantee at the grand opening, there will be some interesting food.
Thank you.
Counselor Wilson, you had a question?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Sharon, you also do other kinds of counseling besides addiction though, don't you? I think you offer quite a few services that are pretty extensive, if I understand.
We do a lot of one-to-one services. Our people at Forward House are non-clinical, so we don't have clinical counseling at Forward House. But what we do is more like coaching, and it's helping people get through to the day-to-day issues that they have. We've also started some outreach in Nanoose. We're there one day a week, and we have been going up to Qualicum Beach. I'm actually working with a team under the Strengthening Communities grant who are out and about throughout the whole community. And we're going to be doing some educational sessions with that as well in June. So hopefully educating the community about where people are at and the possibilities for our community members.
Thank you. Sharon, as I've said to you before, we're so very proud to have you as part of our community. Thank you very much for your presentation today.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving right along to our next presentation on 103 and 113 Jensen. We have Mr. Lowe. Oh.
It's only one chair.
Oh. Okay,
Oh, that's okay.
there you go.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you very much for letting us present this project to you tonight. Before Erica comes up and kind of briefs you with the changes, I don't think I did a great job at introducing myself or the owner, so I wanted to take a couple minutes to do that now. My name's Carl Binder. I'm the construction manager for the owner, and I've had the privilege of living in Parksville for the last 7 years. Although I wasn't born and raised here, like my wife, this is a great community and one I'm very happy to raise my kids in. The owner is also a local prominent member. He employs hundreds of people on this island. His kids go to Oceanside Elementary. Councillor O'Brien, you asked the name of the building, Thomas Manor, and his son is named Thomas. So the goal is to develop this property and hold it forever, for long term. I've built many projects throughout Vancouver Island. I've done new construction, commercial, institutional, even affordable housing. I've done over 300 units with BC Housing and nonprofit societies. I even helped in developing the SEP code by doing the first passive certified multifamily building on Vancouver Island, the Nanaimo Passive House. I worked hand in hand with BC Housing for cost benefit analysis, wall systems, roof systems, the works. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because of comments that were made last meeting about meeting step 4. And Councillor Wilson, this building can't really meet step 4. It's just unfortunately not the right shape. It's building articulation. Even the suspended slab that we have, that's creating quite the thermal bridge. very difficult to do after you've developed down the road. We committed to step 3 and we can do step 3. But if we had to follow step 4, I don't think that this project would be viable. We would have to go back to the drawing board. I guess when we purchased the property, we did our preliminary due diligence using the zoning bylaws. And I think I sent an email also to council, just kind of saying why we made the decisions we made. 29 units we felt fit the site. I know it feels tight and density is an issue, but we were proving, I think, that with the parking. We were able to do 29 parking stalls for the residents. There is an opportunity in the bylaw to do cash in lieu for commercial. So we did take advantage of that. And quite honestly, it made the project work. It was the right cap rate. And for private development, we were able to pull the trigger and start moving forward. I hope that step 3 is a commitment that works for this council, because we do want to build this project. We think that this is going to be a good project for Parksville. We're going to add to the vibrancy of downtown. And before I turn it over to Erica, I do want to say that we have heard your comments and concerns. I think the project you're going to see tonight that's presented is much different than what we originally presented. I want to thank you for all your comments, because it's a different building. It's morphed into something that I stand behind. I'm very proud of. And I just want to thank you before we move into that. So any more questions, let me know, but I will turn it over to Erica.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor, Council, and staff. Thank you for having me here to talk about this project. I know this is our second time now at council with this project, and we have been to ADP twice as well. And we've kind of gone back and we've listened to all of those meetings multiple times, and we've rewatched and looked at the design with that in mind. So kind of working with the requirements that Carl and his team have given us, and then also the comments from you, we have updated the design. Just to kind of give a bit of context. So really the site we're looking at is right across the street from where we're sitting now. So following the March 21st council meeting, we kind of heard six main items. So to review the color and materiality of the building to better meet the requirement of the OCP and add some West Coast character. So I'll talk through that as we kind of go through the design fairly quickly here, but I did also bring a materials board mostly to hold up. So if you guys wanted to see it, because it's really hard in renderings, especially on projectors where it gets quite washed out, to really see what those colors are. So I did want to have the physical ones here so you could see them. So we have actually added another material to the building. We've broken up the materiality. We've revised the roof to kind of bring in more West Coast character. Heard a comment to revise the guardrails to frosted glass as opposed to picket to hide any belongings stored on the balconies. So we have made this change. We've revised them to glass. They are a frosted glass. There is a concern on our part because often working with different jurisdictions, we do hear concerns from fire departments that they're requesting not to do that because they can't see what's on the balcony. So if they're responding to a fire in that location, if they can't see what's on the balcony, it's not as safe it's just not considered as safe for them to get up onto that balcony and into the building. So it is just one of those. I mean, we have heard from other jurisdictions that they'd rather be able to see what's on the balcony and to stop people from storing things, right? So if they can see it, then they can say, hey, you know what, that's not allowed to be there, not in the bylaws, move it out. Add more interest to the upper deck amenity space. So a pergola and planters have been added to the upper deck to provide more interest. Concerns regarding the column within the 6-meter site triangle. So we have actually pulled back some of the balconies to allow and change the column structure to remove that column. So it's no longer an issue, and we've taken that right out. Provide more landscaping along Jensen Avenue. So we have provided the required 1.5-meter landscaping along Jensen Avenue. It actually goes along Craig Street as well. And we've better updated the drawings to represent this. I think the way it was showing in the renderings before, it just wasn't 100% clear. And then we've been asked to provide more clarity on the sustainable design initiatives undertaken. And so Carl's kind of talked a lot about designing to BC Step Code 3, but we did outline these. So site design, parking stalls are EV charger ready. 4 EV chargers will be provided at fit out, and these service a total of 8 vehicles. So it's one charger that has 2 heads on it. Bike storage room is equipped with power for charging electric bikes as required. And then there's a place provided on the main floor for scooter storage and charging. The roof is designed to be solar ready for future PV installation. An electrified building, meaning that the building will not have a natural gas connection. This lowers the overall carbon footprint of the building. So that's actually a huge step. Native and drought tolerant landscaping, as well as smart controller irrigation. Stormwater detention is actually on the site. And as much as there's a lot of concern about density, actually infill development, this is an infill development close to transit, and it's actually quite a walkable location. In terms of the building itself, so again, designed to BC Step Code 3, which you guys are all familiar with, increased exterior insulation, airtight construction, Lowe coating with double pane windows, reduced thermal bridges. We've got LED lighting throughout, Energy Star appliances, low flow plumbing fixtures, no or low VOC interior finishes throughout. Suites are outfit with smart thermostats to encourage energy awareness and reduce tenant power usage. And the building massing and orientation actually maximizes solar gain, and then shielded lighting on the site. So again, I won't go into a lot of detail on this, but there were 2 variances that were approved in the council meeting on March 21st. Otherwise, the project meets the bylaw requirements. Just going to move through. So as you can see here, there's no longer any column along the corner of Jensen and Craig. And then you can see that landscaping along both streets in that 1.5 meter strip. Moving above, these floor plans remain kind of as you've seen them, with a mix of 1 bed, 1 bed plus den, and 2 bedroom units. With on the top floor, kind of dropping that 1 2-bedroom unit on the end and having that as an outdoor amenity space for all units. And so here you can see that the revised roof, so as the roof now kind of slopes up in that West Coast style, where there is a bit of a larger overhang. We've got the angled timber columns, and then breaking up the facade, so it's not just kind of one cladding material, but bringing in another material and another color. So you get a little bit more texture, a little bit more change on the site. And then you'll also see on the corner there, no longer the column. And then we've revised the landscaping on that corner to be more of a bench and a planter, to add service spaces and bring that green to the site. And I think the renderings also now better show the intent of having that kind of the wood look soffit throughout. I know there were comments about it being wood look as opposed to real wood, but the reality is that the owners are holding on to this property and they're renting it, and maintenance is it's definitely at the forefront of their minds. So we have chosen a material that we know looks really great once it's installed, and it will kind of stand that test of time, but still brings that warmth to the project. So again, another view from Jensen Avenue, where you can see that kind of butterfly roof from the side. And then the view from the back lane, looking up at the kind of parking side of the project, you can really see what's happening up on that rooftop amenity space. You can see the angled columns here as well. And yeah, this is again just showing the updated materials palette, which physical samples you can see here. It looks a little more washed out on the screen than it does in real life. So I can leave this with staff if you guys want to have a look at that. The remainder here, just updated drawings showing the changes that you've seen in the renderings. And then these sections just really showing that updated roof line. Yeah. Are there any questions?
Councilor Frantz, do you have your hand up? Please.
Thank you through the mayor to our delegation. I just want to start by saying thank you for this presentation here. It's obviously you guys have been listening very well, and some great changes here. I really like what I'm seeing. the roof lines. I like seeing the timber beams added in there. I guess the question is, when you talk about those not being real wood materials, are those not timber beams? Or are they clad or?
They are timber beams. Those
Yeah.
would be timber beams. It's just the soffit and the cladding.
Understood, yeah. No, I think I like the color scheme and how it does fade to another color and texture on the top as well. The column there, I think, is great having it removed with the rounded corner. You know, having a bench area there too, it might be cool if it had a little bit of a water feature on that wall as well. But you know, overall, I think this is a great improvement, and I'm a fan of it. I don't have any concerns beyond what I mentioned before. I think you addressed them all. So congratulations on you know, bringing such a dramatic change to what we first had. And I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I really appreciate it too. So, and with the railings as well, I much prefer these glass. I hear what you mentioned about the fire department. I haven't heard our chief raise those concerns to us. We have other projects that are bringing the same kind of frosted glass. So I think around town, it'll have that kind of matching effect. And I think the benefit is definitely outweighs that concern that you mentioned there. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. And through the mayor, thanks very much for that. All the changes, I'm happy. And I do understand the step code 3 that you were talking about. I do get that. I think step code 3 is pretty acceptable right now for where we're at. And I do understand that you would have to have gone back to the drawing board to make substantive changes. But and I just want to say I'm really pleasantly surprised and encouraged that you have taken this step, that you've softened the colors, you've added the wood elements and some of the sustainable features as well. I think that our residents are going to appreciate this. You're future-proofing our building for down the road for younger generations. You know, you've got EV chargers and solar ready, and what else did I have on here? Well, I just think, you know, you've done a nice, I'm really happy you removed the post. I really am. It's changed the whole look of the building considerably. It really has. So it's wonderful when designers put their heads together and you always come up with something better. You always think you've done it. But, you know, as a designer, I appreciate, you know, that sometimes the feedback forces you to come up with something even better. So you've done a great job and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you. And through to the delegation, great job on your presentation today. I really appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to listen to our comments. You listen very specifically. I'm very happy with the step 3 code, and I'm very happy with electrification. So you reduce your carbon footprint right there. And that's a goal that we're trying to achieve very much here in the city of Parksville, recognizing that. I believe what you've done here now, you've taken a good project and you created a great project. And that's exactly what we're hoping. We're really hoping that Parksville has now been discovered. And but we want great projects. We do. That's going to be great for our residents as well. This is a rental unit. We need inventory of housing of all types. This is satisfying, you know, that particular niche. The thing is, it's very important that your location is downtown. It's helping with the densification of our downtown core, but also helping putting eyes and ears on the street, downtown livability. But the thing is that you've created a space, and I believe a project that's going to be very desired by the rental community anyways, as they take the tenancy. They will be very pleased with it. I like your butterfly roof. They grab me right away. The pergola up on top is great too. So you're really making the attempts with your electric bike charges as well. That's the cusp. That's where we're at right now, and then there's going to be a lot more. So you're ahead of the game. So I thank you very much. I just had one other question at one time. It's a rental unit, a market rental building. Is there going to be any age restrictions? It's going to be open to market. I'm seeing from a nod from the back from Carl. Thank you, and that helps answer a question. That's exactly what we want. I noticed in between the one bedroom and den and one or 2-bedroom as well, which is going to encourage families as well, which is great. It's good for our community and it's good for those people looking for a place. Thank you for your presentation.
Councilor Chen.
Thank you. Through your worship to the delegation, thank you for coming. Clearly, everybody's stolen all of my comments. I was going to say all these exact same things, and I think we all are, because it's quite an impressive project. You know, I'm really glad that Councillor Wilson had brought up about the railings. You know, I drove by one of the properties that's out by Quality Foods there, and it's very noticeable on the balconies. You can see it with the wrought iron railings, and not that it's an eyesore or anything like that, but I think this is such an important piece to the corner that we're putting this building on, right by City Hall. It's going to be surrounded by a lot of new facilities and new properties that are going up. So I think we want that same look all the way down there. So I applaud you for looking at that program, and you know, basically just thank you for bringing what you did back. Lastly, I'd love to see a list of some of the projects that you've worked on the island. I'm a fan of looking at that. I'm up and down the island all the time. It's just nice to see what else is going on out there. So if there's some way of getting that through with staff, I'd appreciate a list of maybe 10 or 20 places that you built and just check them out. So thank you.
Councilor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to our delegation. So on the level 1, you have retail spaces and that as well. Is there any fire suppression systems in those areas? It's and that, which again helps for all new buildings and everything. There's considerably less fires with new buildings than with olders. When I was looking at, and I would really appreciate, or maybe even just passing around the color schemes and everything, that'd be awesome. I always said when I first started this journey in council and everything that I had to be accountable to my children because they were younger at the time. So when I heard that it was named after someone in the family and everything, I thought, now that's a way to ensure that you're proud of the building. And so I wanted to just say that thank you for the changes and everything that have been made and are greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. You did a great job. Honestly, it's very, very impressive at this point in time. We look forward to keep moving forward with you. So we'll go from there. Thank you very much. Correspondence. We have one piece of correspondence, and I'd like a mover and a seconder for that correspondence to be received. It was a very interesting page that we did receive, and we thought that everybody should at least have a look at it. It was well done. So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Wilson, second by Councillor Fraz. Discussion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Grant and Aid Steering Committee for Spring 2022 Grant and Aid. And I need a mover and a seconder to approve the grant and aid applications and the approvals of the same. Councillor Patterson and Councillor Chandler. Who's on the committee? Councillor Fraz. Why don't we make it Councillor Patterson, Councillor Fraz as being for moving and seconding. Discussion. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor Main. I was just had a question regarding the allocations anyways, the second one here for Big Brothers Big Sisters Central Vancouver Island for the Child Care Center for $500 approved. I'm just wondering, I'm surprised because we had an announcement of a city news release advising that the Boys Girls Club will manage and operate the child care facility on a self-sufficient or self-sustaining basis without reliance on any funding assistance from the city. Sorry? It's a different group?
This
This
is the
not
Boys and Girls Club, not big brothers and sisters.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, so they don't, so they operate here so it's a question then to the delegation, do they operate here in Parksville to the,
Yes.
okay, thank you. That's all I need. Thank you. Sorry for that. I thought.
Okay. Councillor
acronym.
Patterson?
Thank you, Worship. And I think that Councillor Fraz and I can both comment on any of the organizations and the amounts that were approved. As Councillor O'Brien was mentioning, it's the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Central Vancouver Island, but they also, each of the applicants were really good and diligent in giving information in regards to their organization, and some of them, I think that we should probably have made aware to all of council, not just the grant and aid committee, because they really are rewarding some of the different organizations and everything that do work in the community. So
Okay. I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Reports. Director of Community Planning and Building, please step forward.
Good evening, Council, and Your Worship. For Council consideration is the issuance of a development permit at 103-113 Jensen Avenue East. I'm not going to go into a lot of details on the changes. Those have been provided to Council during the delegation. Staff believe that it appears an effort is being made by the applicant to address a number of the points that were raised by Council. Building materials, colors, and finishes appear to have been improved. Landscaping sustainability aspects appear to have been enhanced. The roof line and brickworks appear to be more distinct. Based on that, it appears an attempt has been made by the applicant to consider the general intent of the development permit area guidelines and Council's comments on the development proposal. If satisfied, Council may consider issuing the development permit to the property owners. The recommendations are per the agenda.
I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Greer. Can I just ask one question before we get into the discussion? Would this be the place where we might want to add in? I really do like Councillor Fraz's or Councillor O'Brien, whoever it was that made the question about the elimination of age restrictions on rentals.
If I may, Worship, Council indicated that in its resolution at the last meeting. Specifically, Council indicated its preference that it not be an age-restricted building, but if Council would like to reiterate that preference, it's
Conditional approval on that? Can we do that? Yeah. Are you waving your hand at me?
I was, thank you, Your Worship. There are some human rights things that we can't trump though, in terms of there's an exemption for folks that are 55 and older. But as the director mentioned, we did express council's preference that in this community that not be used, but I don't think we can force the issue at our level.
That's fine. I didn't think we'd go with a gun or something, force it if we had to, but.
Can't make
at
it
least if
conditional.
We put it somewhere in writing that that's what we would like. That's all.
We have.
All right. Any questions on what's going on? Then I call the question. All those in favor of issuing? Unanimous. Congratulations. One for one.
If I may, Your Worship, this is a follow-up report for consideration of a development variance permit for a fence at 246 Hickey Avenue. Since this was last presented to council, the required notification has occurred. If approved, it will allow for up to, sorry, I don't have my glasses here. It'll allow for a fence within the front lot line setback of 1.83 meters rather than the standard 1.2. As of today's date, no correspondence have been received. If council could give an opportunity for anyone in the gallery who wishes to speak to this application to do so now. Anyone?
Is there anybody that wishes to speak to this matter? Okay,
If not, the recommendations are per the agenda.
thank you. I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Counselor O'Brien, second by Counselor Wilson. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can we break them up?
Can we, I'm sorry.
Break them up?
Sure. We can break it into point 1 and point 2, not a problem. So we're moving and seconding point 1. You okay with that? Counselor Wilson? All right. So it's point 1 we're discussing at this point in time. Did you have something you wish to say on point 1? All right. Any discussion on point 1? All those in favor? Carried. All right. Point 2. I need a mover and a seconder for point 2 then. Counselor Chandler, second by Counselor O'Brien. Discussion? That must be the one if we only had
Yeah,
two.
this is the area that I wanted to put it out there. For myself, I don't support amending or giving a variance here to an over height fence, being that it's a front lot line fence here. I don't see a reason or need for it. I understand that this is a replacement of a fence that was probably installed long before we had a bylaw through the town limiting that to 4 feet there. But for me to make a step away from the bylaw, I have to be convinced of some kind of reason to do so, not just simply just requesting it. I don't see how this property is in need of a 6-foot fence in the front lot line any more than anyone else. So for me, it's should replace the fence in line with the bylaw. So I'm not going to be supporting it.
Any other comments? Counselor O'Brien?
Thank you, Mayor Main. I'm putting my support behind this application at this time. I have had a look at the site that this was being proposed for. It's a very busy location. The owners have had a previous 6-foot fence in place anyways. It's a high traffic location as well as a high volume of pedestrian traffic as well in that area. I believe for their security and privacy of their property, I think it's a reasonable expectation to request a variation on this particular time to give them better living space for their family.
Any other comments? Okay, please.
Yeah, just actually one more comment. You jogged my memory on that. One of the items brought up was talking about vehicle lights, like entering in through the yard and that. I think that's only a concern if there is no fence in there. The vehicle lights are not above 4 feet high. They're not going to be going in over a 4-foot fence. So again, as far as like privacy or busy areas, so is everywhere through town. Like I don't see it being any more unique than and required anywhere else. So, and the reason, it's not that I'm going to lose sleep over it one way or another. It's not too big of a deal, but it just, what kind of precedence that set then? It's just, if you ask for a fence, you get it. Why have a bylaw then if it's so easily overturned?
Can I ask what was, and I don't have my notes in front of me, what was the height, or what would the height be in total without the change? It'd be 4 feet?
Yes, your worship, 3.9 feet.
Okay. So we're looking at a couple of feet difference is what we're looking for. Counselor Wilson? Thank you.
Thank you. Through the mayor to our director of planning, or maybe not, just a comment actually. I agree that with Councillor Faraz on some level, I'm pretty much a stickler with things like this, but we have given variances to other properties that have this sort of lack of privacy, if you will, and whatnot. So I think in this case, given that this replacement fence is the same height as what was there, and the location, it doesn't bother me so much in this case. And I think we have to look at things like this on a case-by-case basis. And so in this case, I wouldn't oppose it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Counselor O'Brien, then I'll finish it up.
Thank you, Mayor Main. In this particular case, there was an existing fence on the site. which was rotting and in very rough shape. So in reality, is if the proponents of the fence had just repaired that fence, they would have been able to do so without taking out a variance. So they could have kept a 6-foot fence by shoring it up. In this particular case, they're going to be improving it, the look of the whole area by putting in a brand new fence. So I think that speaks to itself. So they could have kept a 6-foot fence in there regardless. The other thing is that recognizing the fact that if you look at the shape of the land, Hickey Avenue that this fence has, it's a rather different shaped lot as well. Recognizing, of course, that the 4-foot bylaw only refers to the front yard fence. They would be able to put a 6-foot fence in their back and side yards if they so desire. So this is just really limiting. So it's really, as I say, it's just replacing what they already had. And I think that's reasonable in the such.
I'm betwixt and between on this one. If there wasn't an existing fence there, then there'd be no discussion. I would not be in favor of allowing an 8-foot or a 6-foot high fence, because there's an existing fence there. You know, there's some merit to the argument at that time. My problem I've got is, and Councillor Wilson hit the nail on the head, that we've made these approvals before, and we continue to make exceptions all the way through on the height of the front yard. Not saying this is right or this is wrong. What I'm saying is maybe the bylaw needs to be looked at, as because you can't say somebody can have it and this person can't. Either everybody can have it or everybody shouldn't have it, and everybody that has it, when it comes up time, when the life expectancy of the particular fence expires, then it should come back to what the existing bylaw is. That would be the way I would look at it. It's the way any other existing non-conforming situation occurs in our bylaws. So I'm going to ponder this well for a few more seconds. But anyways, if there's any more questions, comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. You voted in favor. I'm sorry, Councillor Chandler. Yes. Then it passes. There we go. Thank you. You're still up and we're still going.
If I may, Your Worship, for council consideration this evening is a request to advance for notice for a development variance permit application at 541 Martindale Road. The property is a fairly rural property that's got parts of the regional district kind of surrounding it. The site itself is over an acre. It's actually about 2.5, actually more than 2.5 acres, surrounded by similarly sized parcels. The requested variance is twofold. One is a relaxation to the carriage house requirements in order to allow an existing dwelling to be repurposed as an accessory carriage house, so that a new dwelling may be made constructed on the property without significant modifications to the existing building. In addition, the proponent is also seeking a variance to the fence height to allow for a 1.83 meter or 6-foot fence to provide additional screening within the character of the sort of rural area that it's located in. And as I said, at this point, the recommendations is just to proceed with notice.
Fair enough. Do we need to break it down? Do you want to break them down again? So, okay.
Yeah, the question is not just breaking them down, but the recommendation number 2, I think should actually be broken down to perhaps 3 different points. One for the square footage for the carriage house, because that is separate then from the fence as well. Whereas point 2 kind of couples them together.
Go ahead, you can explain.
We're seeking council's permission to go ahead with notice. So at this point, all that would be happening is a notice would be published that would say that council's considering a variance permit, and it would indicate that there's 2 possible variances. no final decision is being rendered this evening on which variances may be granted by council. That would come back to council at a subsequent meeting when the permit's presented.
So mover and a seconder on this, then moved by Councillor O'Brien, second by Councillor Greer. Any further discussion? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Holy cow, they really put you up on a long list today, didn't they? Go ahead, please.
Well, if I may, Your Worship, I think I'm doing it to myself. For council consideration this evening is a liquor license application to basically it's called a permanent structural change application at a liquor primary facility. In this case, the Sunset Lanes Bowling Alley is seeking to make permanent an outdoor patio that is on their property. This application is kind of part of more than one application that will be required on the property to ultimately facilitate a legitimate patio on the property. At this time, the patio is located on parking spaces. So at some point in time, either additional parking will need to be provided or a variance granted or whatever. In order to provide comment to the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch, council has to go out with notice. So really this evening, there's kind of two options. Council can either opt out of providing comment on the application, which would leave it in the hands of the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch, or council can proceed with notice. And then after undertaking notice, council can then either provide a positive or negative recommendation to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch. So council does not have the capability this evening to provide either a positive or negative endorsement. It's really either to opt out or to go ahead with notification in order to pass on comment. We do have a bit of a chicken and egg scenario here in that it's for someone to legitimize a patio under one license. Either they need a variance and a development permit first, or they need a liquor license first. So in this case, they've already got the thing established. They're seeking to get the liquor license aspect addressed. There are still other aspects that will need to be addressed in the future, should this ultimately be issued by the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch. So at this evening, I'm seeking council approval to go ahead with notice. The recommendations per the agenda.
It's never easy, is it? I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Chandler. Discussion. I think it's pretty straightforward. Oh, sorry, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor Main. A question to Mr. Russell, if I may. I know the site, I know that the bowling alley and so forth. So I wasn't sure about the application itself, the liquor permit that they have. Currently, it's a bowling alley that has a liquor permit to serve liquor, I would assume, to the bowlers bowling at the bowling alley. This to me almost looks like it would be a standalone with a number of seats provided. It's almost like it's just a walk-in bar. I'm only questioning that because I bowled in there and
Sure.
I know how the amount of lanes that they have and so forth. And I really, you'd be hard pressed to get that many bowlers all there at the same time. So I'm just not sure that is a proper permit in place for liquor consumption at this spot. You know, it almost looks like a standalone. I've seen it on site.
If I may, worship through to Councillor Bryan. So while the lounge may be frequented more commonly by people that bowl, that wouldn't be a licensing requirement. Anyone off the street currently could just go there to the lounge and consume alcohol without a meal being provided. The province's real criteria is whether or not a meal is provided or not. That's kind of their main licensing requirement. And so in the case of a lounge at the bowling alley, you wouldn't have to have a meal, but they don't link it to the activity of bowling. So anyone could could attend that facility already without bowling. Now, whether it might be more attractive to people that maybe aren't into bowling, that's entirely possible. And that's certainly, certainly council can make those comments should we go ahead with notice and provide comment to the liquor, and I can't say their new name, whatever they're called, the LCRB. Yeah, so you are correct. It may change its appeal potentially. I will say that it has operated now under the COVID restrictions for the last year or so. We haven't received any complaints that we're aware of or concerns from its current operation. One would suppose that it would probably operate fairly similar to its current operation, but be formalized on a permanent basis rather than under temporary authority.
Councillor Chandler, you had your hand up.
Yeah, if, through your mayor, just a comment. I know this property well. We've been in there bowling, and it is it's a separate entity from the actual lounge itself. The lounge is very much itself just a lounge, and he does have liquor sales inside the bowling alley area as well for people that want to sit there and watch their kids. And so it's I believe that's the case now. And it's a new owner in there from the previous owner, Stu Kehoe. But anyways, it's a great little place, and I think ultimately becoming a bit more of a community place for people to go now, especially with COVID and some restrictions there with that. So that's all. I just wanted to clarify that part. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Reports, Manager of Administrative Services regarding the 22 parcel tax review panel.
So the purpose of this report is to set the date and time for the parcel tax review panel in order to authenticate the 2022 parcel tax rolls for water and sewer as required under the community charter. And it also recommends repealing the city's regional the regional parks parcel tax bylaw, as this amount will now be collected through an alternative method per the adoption of the RDN Regional Parks and Trails Service Amendment Bylaw, which was approved by the RDN earlier this year, and the recommendations per the council agenda.
Thank you. I need a mover and a seconder for the 4 recommendations. Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. Discussion. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Notice of motions, and mine happens to be the first one at the top, so. Looking at a situation, I'm noticing that there's several very significant, there are a very significant number of amazing young people in our city. And during this term, we have recognized a few of these bright shining stars. We've had a few Bolinas grads represented at a recent Summer Olympics, including Alicia Butterworth, Kai Langerfield, and Mike Mason. Many of our young people have achieved scholarships and national recognition for excellence in track, swimming, baseball, and other sports. Many other young people have gained music and academic achievements. What I'm asking is I would like to propose the addition of a $2,000 annually to the budget as the Mayor's Outstanding Youth Award to allow for recognition of the amazing young people from our city and allow us to present them with a Parksville branded hoodie and travel bag to support them in their athletic, academic, or cultural pursuits, and proudly display their hometown logo as they travel around the country. In this vein, I'm proposing the following notice of motion be considered this evening. So I need a mover. I'm moving it. I need a seconder for it. Councillor Greer. Discussion. You've heard my comments on it. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I think this is a great idea, especially if we're going to hand out those wonderful bags with our city logo on it, because they're absolutely fantastic for for anybody who's into sports. So, yeah, I think this is a great idea.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson, do you have your hand up? And Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have anything against this motion whatsoever, except for how will you have it to only 10 outstanding young people in our community, and how will that be chosen?
Be quite frankly, quite frank about it, it was an arbitrary number that, you know, we've had since we've been here, probably about 4 opportunities, 5 opportunities, just on an annual basis. You know, we're looking at way more than that if needed. So I think we're okay with the number. It's the amount. I mean, we put $2,000 on the line, and we use that until it's used up, I guess is what I'm suggesting. But I think there's, you know, 10 people per year. It works out well for me. Any other question? Councillor O'Brien, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Main. Just a question. I think it's a great idea. A lot of outstanding youth in our community for sure. My only suggestion or just idea, I'm not sure why it would just be the mayor's Outstanding Youth Award. Why wouldn't it just be the City of Parksville's Outstanding Youth Award? Would you be amenable to changing the name instead of mayor to City of Parksville, since all of us would be supporting it as council?
I really don't care on that. It's just a matter of getting the recognition to the individuals. So that's all that matters to me.
Right. My point being is that it is the City of Parksville Outstanding Youth Award, then that gives, as that being the award itself, it's from the City of Parksville. So it's right up front and identifying that it is the City of Parksville. I think it's just important that we wave that City of Parksville flag.
That's fine. I'd accept that as a friendly amendment. Any questions? Councillor Graz?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for bringing this up. I think this is a great way to recognize the youth, and I know it really helps people feel good about themselves and be able to put it on a resume or help them out there when they go out into the world to advertise that they've done something worthy of recognition. I like the idea of the hoodie and the travel bag to help them on with that, and perhaps maybe though like some kind of some kind of plaque or some kind of award, because it is nice to have something that can sit on the desk or in your room, something to remind you of those achievements over time. I know I still have some from even when I was in minor hockey, and that it's enjoyable to see them. So yeah, a plaque or some kind of award to go along with it. But thank you very much for bringing this forward. I think it's a wonderful idea. And I agree, regardless of the name, I think the Outstanding Youth Award is the important part of it.
Councillor Chandler?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think it's a great thing to bring forward. Just a point of order. We also needed to get the seconder to be okay with that change, I believe, if that's not correct.
Who was the seconder?
Councillor Greer.
Councillor Greer, are you okay with that? Sorry, you're absolutely right, Councillor Chandler.
I'm okay with the change, although I think most of these awards over the years, and I've been involved in a lot of them, have come from the mayor, which represents the council. I don't have any trouble with either one, but so I don't know which one you want to decide on, but I'm okay with either one.
Well, I think we've agreed that we'll go with the City of Parksville Outstanding Youth. That, pardon me?
For the sake of it, my personal preference is the mayor's award. I like that because it, as you mentioned, does seem like
I prefer the mayor's award
it's the
as
same
well.
way like in cadets, we had the Duke of Edinburgh Award.
Yep.
You know, it has a recognition
Okay,
from individual.
Interjection here. We're stepping away from a friendly amendment then if this is the case. So it's.
Well, I would stick with the mayor's award. I like that because I've been involved in such an award, and it has come from the mayor, which represents the entire council and the city as well.
All right.
So I think with the mayor, I'm good with that.
Let's back it up then, if that's where we're at. So we got to end up making I'm assuming Councillor O'Brien is making an amendment to the motion.
Yes, I've made the amendment. I would need a different seconder if
Yes.
Councillor Greer is not.
Yes. Does somebody want a second? Councillor Wilson? Discussion on the idea of calling it the city of Parksville's rather than the mayor's. I'll leave it up to you guys to have that conversation. We've already started that. Counselor Wilson?
Thank you. And I was just going to say that if it's a City of Parksville award, there's more, I don't know, it's just more recognizable. That's all. And so it's nothing against having it being the mayor's award, but I just think if it says City of Parksville, that's just better advertising for, or not so much advertising, but just a better sounding award from a city. That's all.
Thank you. All right, we're now voting on whether it should be the mayor's or the city of Parksville's. So it's Councilor O'Brien's suggestion is the city of Parksville. All those in favor of the city of Parksville? That's 3 opposed. Okay, so it stays as this mayor's outstanding youth award. And now we're back to the original motion. Any further discussion on your original motion? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the question? Opposed? Let it be known that it's Councillor O'Brien opposes it, but it's carried. There we go. Thank you. Councillor O'Brien's request for Parksville Community Center. Please.
Thank you, Mayor Manning.
The formal address to the chair, according to the policies and procedures, is your worship. I've noticed we've come off of that a lot tonight, so I'm just asking we go back just so that we follow protocol. If you would.
Yes, I can discuss that with you after the meeting. Yes, I will. The notice of motion anyways is that council approved the request from the Parksville Community Center Society, letter dated March 10th, 2022, requesting a letter of support from the city of Parksville for their efforts to convert the facility at 223 Mill Street into a new community center. We had a, sorry, that is my notice of motion. Before I speak to it,
Okay, you need a seconder for it. Councillor Patterson is seconding it. Now you may speak to it.
Thank you. The letter is such, we thought we were going to have copies in front of everybody here today. So the thing is, I'll read it to Parksville Mayor and Council. The Parksville Community Center Society, PCCS, is requesting a letter of support from the city of Parksville for our efforts to convert the facility at 223 Mill Street into a new community center. As you know, the society operated successfully the center at 132 Jensen Avenue on behalf of the city for many years as a nonprofit society. Our goal is to once again host a broad range of events, including business meetings, trade shows, educational seminars, sporting events, club gatherings, cultural events, and concerts in Parksville. The board of directors is comprised of a group of community leaders who volunteer their time to overseeing the governance of the PCC and have acquired the facilities at 223 Mill Street to be used as a new Parksville Community Center. The board's mandate is to ensure the center continues to drive social and economic activity within the local community and encourage participation from all sectors, public, private, business, and government. The society will meet all health and safety requirements prior to occupancy, as well as follow all municipal, provincial, and federal bylaws and regulations. We are not asking for any financial assistance from the city of Parksville, simply a support letter that we can use to apply for grant funding. Sincerely, President Dwayne Round, Parksville Community Center Society. So that explains exactly what the request is for, so I don't think I have to go into any further detail. It's pretty clear. Thank you.
Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm certainly against this for the hassles that they have put us through at the city, and with the demanding that they stay with the same name of the Parksville Community Center. I would certainly not support this. Possibly if they had come with a little bit of more integrity and were willing to change their name and so on, I might support it. However, I think they're really overstepping their boundaries by the hassles that they've created for us in this community and for this council. So I would not support this. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Wilson, then Counselor Chandler.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I guess I just have a question, actually. I'm not even sure who to ask. I've just noticed at the top of the letterhead that it says Parksville Community Center. Perhaps Councillor O'Brien knows. No, it's actually saying PCC at the top of the letterhead. So now I am a little confused because I actually don't mind. I think this is fine to support them for a letter. We need other community spaces, so I have no problem with giving them a letter. But now I do need some clarification as to the name of the building, because there would be conflict if it's called the Parksville Community Center. We already have a Parksville Community Center. So if I could get some clarification on that.
Counselor Chandler.
Thank you, through your worship. Just a couple of comments. I think it is confusing. We've just seen a Parksville Community Center proposal in front of us today, which would essentially mean that we're going to have two places named Parksville Community Center. So I think in a lot of respects, that's very confusing for both people that are going to be renting and people that are going to be finding it and going there. So that's part and part of it. Secondly, I don't have any problem in the support of, specific grant funding. I think we looked at doing that several times when we had them in the building across the way here on Jensen. We were open to any kind of grant funding that they were open to, and we would write letters to that effect if they had asked for them. So essentially, I would say I don't really support the motion of it, but I understand the feeling of wanting to get back to community and getting some other spaces. I applaud the group for doing that. I think that calling it a community gathering place or something of that nature would make some more sense. But to actually, have two community centers makes zero sense at all. So I wouldn't support it for that reason.
Counselor O'Brien and Counselor Wilson.
Thank you. Then the letter of support would be for, I think, did you get the copies? Yeah, the very first line, sent to the Parksville Community Center Society. That would be the letter of support. I understand that there's some issues regarding the name, who's going to use that may yet to be decided. But this is actually the Parksville Community Center Society. So the letter of support would only be for the Parksville Community Center Society, I would think, at this particular point is all they're requesting.
Hold on for a second. Counselor Wilson, you've spoken once already, so I'm going to let Counselor Patterson speak and then you can speak after her.
Thank you, Your Worship. So since everyone does have a copy in front of them, I just wanted to note and everything that they have changed their email and that it's at parksvillecenter.ca as well as at the board for board related to board@parksvillecenter.ca. So I do know that I think that this is a step towards mending some relationships. I'm going to be honest with that. I know that we have a long way to go, and these are good people. There was an event just on Wednesday in regards to a building development that had a great show of people in the community that were able to attend because this group has a new facility, and that so like Councillor O'Brien, and that it's a step. It is requesting a letter of support in a new center. So that's what this motion is, which I do support. And we can move forward with a discussion in regards to names and such in the future.
Counselor Wilson, then I will speak.
Thank you, Worship. So I can see, I totally agree with Councillor Patterson, Councillor O'Brien. I do understand, and I'm not opposed to this. My only concern is the name, and I think that we should have clarification as to make sure that there is no crossover in names. So I understand giving the PCCS a letter, but I wouldn't mind, even if I could make a friendly amendment, that we get some clarification to make sure that, because underneath, let's see, 4 lines up from the bottom, it says Parksville Community Center, post office box 1125 Parksville. So they're still calling themselves the Parksville Community Center. So I do think it needs clarification first. And I totally support giving them a letter so that they can get grants. There's no problem with that. I think it's great that we're going to have another center, but I do think we need to, if Councillor O'Brien would be open for a friendly amendment, perhaps that we get some clarification, clearer clarification. Somehow that would make me feel a lot better. Thank you.
It's Councillor O'Brien's decision if he wants to make a friendly.
Thank you. No, I would not be acceptable to an amended motion. And the reason being is that they sent this correspondence back on March 10th, hoping for some a letter of approval from the city of Parksville. In the meantime, they've continued to do an insurmountable work by volunteers and so forth to get the facility up and running. And the thing is that they have also received already a letter of support from MLA Adam Walker for their grant applications as well. So the thing is that they've waited a long time for this, and they are providing a need right now. As Councillor Patterson has pointed out, they are already renting out space at that location right now. Our center, regardless of whatever name it's going to be, adjacent to us right here, is not going to be ready until, as Mr. Lonsdale's presentation, end of summer. So in the meantime, it's only April here, a type of thing, and there's a lot of people that want to rent space at the new place because they have events. We're finally up and running due to COVID. So I think it's important that we get a letter of support out to them so they can assist themselves. So they're a nonprofit. They're a society registered nonprofit. So the thing is that they have the right to apply, but it just, with any grant application, it just comes with a lot more weight when you have the city of Parksville approval behind it.
But no, I'm going to address this because I've heard too much going on here now. First off, the event on Wednesday, the company thought they rented this PCC, not the one over there. They come to us and said, where is this? And we had to explain that it was somebody else. On Friday, we had a bunch of old ladies, elderly ladies, pounding on the window of City Hall because they were demanding that we open the PCC up because there was a meeting in there for them. And in fact, the meeting was on Mill Street. Third and last on this one part of the subject is the fire department. It has a significant problem. With the fact is, if they had a fire call right now and somebody says it's at the PCC or at the Parksville Community Center, where do they go? Where does an ambulance go at this point in time? Nobody ever gave them this name. Nobody ever said that it was their name to be given. I want to talk about a few other things while I'm at it. So if you'll bear with me. Obviously, I'm not in support of this and never will be. To the best of my knowledge, in 76 years, council has never provided a letter of support that didn't pertain to a specific request. We have never given a carte blanche letter of support to any organization, especially when we have no idea what such a letter will be used for. Our support letters refer to specific items the organizations are applying for, such as a grant application or an approval by senior levels of government. When groups establish what they wish to apply for, they come before council with the particulars. There is a reason for this approach. It is important that council knows what it is providing when written support is given. What if in the future an organization's conduct is such that we no longer wish to provide our support, or a project is so far removed from what council is attempting to do that we would not have supported it? This is why we only look at requests for specific support when we know what it is that the organization is requesting. Why would we want to provide a letter of support to this organization when they have never responded to our concerns? You talk about the fact that they've been waiting since March. Hell, we've been waiting since November for them to respond to our lawyers' letters. So, I mean, let's put it down on the table. We've waited a lot longer for them than they are for us. So I'm not feeling guilty about March. I'm sure that if Councillor O'Brien can appreciate, we do not wish to weaken our legal position we may have by providing this letter. There are still outstanding issues that must be satisfactorily settled before we even think about the request. Councillor O'Brien and the society knows the specifics. They also know that since these items are in camera, we may not talk about them. I am surprised that this request is even before us today. As far as I can tell, this request has no other purpose than for political reasons. This was brought forward because it was known that a responsible council could not support such a request, and this would provide an opportunity to reignite an attack on social media that was taken place in the past. When in the past they had spent a considerable amount of time and effort, not only criticizing our decisions, but to personally attack myself and other members of this council. This council must do what it is in the best interest of the city and not for a few individuals. This council should not be influenced by those who make the most noise. I believe we must wait until the society has satisfactorily responded to our lawyers' requests and they cease from using the name Parksville Community Center for their location. Then I will at least be willing to address a specific letter of support at the time that they have a reason for us to do it. That's how I feel about this. So I'll leave it at that. Councillor Fraz.
Thank you. I think the mayor brings up some really good points here too. And what I have a hard time with is perhaps the fact that we do have ongoing legal matters. So I'd like to move this to defer this to until after all the legal matters have been concluded.
I need a seconder for that deferral. Councillor Greer, discussion? Pardon me?
There's no discussion with the deferral.
Yes, there is. If it's a specific intent, then there's a discussion on it. If it was indefinite, then there would be no discussion. Councillor Chandler?
Thank you, through your worship. Yeah, I think it's worth waiting until we finish this process of the legal matters. It would clear up the name issues, and we've got other things that are involved, so that we can't speak of, obviously. So anyway, I feel the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you. And just to be clear, I specifically did not mention anything about the legal issues, whether the name belongs to the society or to the city of Parksville. I did mention that because it was in camera. You brought it onto the floor. My position is that the request for letter of support stands alone from the legal issues that are outstanding with this society. The letter of support is just that. It's not a letter of support. It's not referring to the name. It's just a letter of support. So it has really no bearing on the legal position that seems to have dragged on. I do know some information about that legal meeting in camera, but I won't discuss it. But it did discuss the naming issue. So But I won't go into that right now because it's in camera and we haven't risen to report on it yet. So I'll refrain from mentioning what that suggestion was.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm back to repeating myself again. I still feel I'm not against giving a support letter for another community center or to the society, but I do think there is conflict right now with the name if the city were giving out that letter. And I just don't have that clarity. I know that what Councillor O'Brien's saying, but somehow or other for me to support the letter, I need to know that they're not using the same name until this is resolved. That's my concern for the very reasons that the mayor has just spoken to about the confusion of people not knowing where they're going or so the fact that they have this, the PCC, the Parksville Community Center written on the letterhead and as their mailing address, it's just so confusing. So unfortunately, I am concerned about giving a support letter just at this time. And if there could be more clarity for me, I would be happy to give them the support letter. So that's basically the way I feel right now. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a discussion about deferral going on, so we're going to go to that. Councillor Chandler, is it a comment on deferral?
Well, essentially, it's a comment on the letter itself.
No,
So
it's on the
can't
deferral.
be.
I want to keep it to the deferral.
Okay,
now.
that's fine. I'll
Any other comment? Then I'll take the question. All those in favor of deferral? Opposed? Oh, Councillor Wilson, Councillor O'Brien, and Councillor Patterson are opposed. Thank you. This has been deferred until the legal matters have been established. Thank you. Now, we have two more things to go. Councillor Wilson, Oceanside Community Action Team, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I would like to make a notice of motion, or if council's amenable to passing this evening, that would be fine with me as well. And the motion would be that Councillor Patterson be appointed as council's representative to attend the meetings on the Oceanside Community Action Team.
I'll second that. Discussion? Oh, sorry, yeah. First off, did you want to handle this tonight or do you want to?
I would like to handle this tonight if everyone's amenable.
If you need to take a vote from the council, whether you are unanimous
All right.
about handling it. Sorry, I just jumped a stage. So all those in favor of handling this tonight? Opposed? It fails. All right, so then we bring it up at the next, on the 13th, a week Wednesday. No, it's a week Wednesday is their next meeting
I'm confused. How come it failed?
because Adam voted against it.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
All right, so yes, the next council meeting is next Wednesday, a week Wednesday. So, all right. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Worship. I also have a potential motion that I'd like to see if we can move forward tonight. I'll give a bit of background on the motion first, but also it's a timing issue just to try to get things set up for this particular property at that time. So anyway, so it's a notice of motion for zoning and development bylaw amendment at 1275 Island Highway East. That's where the visitor center is. And this is the council direct staff to immediately commence to process and amend the zoning and development bylaw for the property located at 1275 East Island Highway East, currently the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center, by adding the following permitted land use to the P1B zoning designation. A, recreation and sports equipment rentals, and B, shipping container or trailer. And firstly, I'd like to ask for support for this evening to put this through and vote on it.
Okay, so call a vote on that. All those in favor? Carries.
Thank you very much.
Proceed, sir.
So that I've read before, is there somebody else would like to hear the motion again? Okay, I'm going to read it again for Councillor Wilson. So that council directs staff to immediately commence to the process to amend the zoning and development bylaw for the property located at 1275 East Island Highway, or Island Highway East, sorry. Currently the Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center, by adding the following permitted land use to the P1B zoning designation. And that's for recreation and sports equipment rentals and shipping container or trailer.
We have a seconder. Councillor Greer, did you? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Patterson, you're seconding. Discussion. First, Councillor Chandler and then Councillor Patterson.
Thank you. Yes, Your Worship. I'd really like to see this go forward, just simply because I think the timing is really good for the possibility of e-bikes to be rented from the visitor center and offer an opportunity for people to ride in and around that whole area, as well as the Resort Row area and to Rathtrevor. So that just, it appeals to me, and it would be, I think, a nice addition to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson, since she seconded.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I think I'll have to direct it through you to Councillor Chandler. When I think of shipping containers or trailers, I typically think of what's referred to as a CCAN, so a railroad cargo container, and that I'm assuming that's what is being looked at, so that they could hold the bikes and everything in a secure location there.
Yes, through the mayor, back to Councillor Patterson. Yes, that's correct. I believe that it's set back from the trees, so it's not, immediately in the way as you're driving in and so on. And also it's, I believe if I recall, I drove by there and saw that there was one that was positioned with a new paint job on it and so on. So it looked good.
Any other questions? Councillor Greer, did you have yours? And then Councillor Fraz and Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Worship. I have the same question as Councillor Patterson. I'd like to know, I'm certainly not against this. I'm all for business and I think it's a good idea, but I'd like to know what shape and what look it's going to give us. This is the entrance to our city, and it should be kept looking really well there. And I'm afraid with containers or whatever they're going to use, might not look so good, but I'm certainly all for it. But I'd like to get a little bit more information on the look of this operation, because it's at the entrance of our city. Thanks.
Thank you. And then Councillor.
If I may, are we able to question Director of Planning?
Yes.
A couple of
Yes,
questions
staff.
for him. I know it may not be prepared with the zoning currently has there right now, but I'm interested as to some of the questions as far as like kind of along the lines of what's it going to look like? Can this be isolated to a certain spot, or what's current? Why is it currently not allowed in the zoning? What's the process they got to go through now to get it in compliance to do this? Recognize that there's some timing issue with this summer coming up. I'm sure they'd like to have this done already, but to me, this seems like it can take definitely a number of weeks. So maybe if you outline those couple of things, the timeline and what really need to be amended for them.
If I may, worship through to Councillor Fraz, it is a zoning bylaw amendment. So that there is a process involved, a number of bylaw readings, public hearing, final adoption of the bylaw. So it will take a couple months in order to facilitate that. As far as what needs to change, so it should be noted that this property has a site-specific zone already. It has unique uses to this, well, not totally unique, but There's two properties in the P1 zone that have a subzone associated with them. The community park is P1A. The P1A zone allows for food, like food catering facility. The P1A zone in the community park also allows for recreation equipment rentals. This property at the Chamber of Commerce property has P1B. It allows for the food component, the food trailer concession. It does not currently have that recreation component. So in order to allow for that as a permitted use on the land, that subzone would need to be amended to add that as a permitted use. The zoning bylaw also has a general prohibition on shipping containers unless the zone expressly allows for it, or if it's a moving container for a very limited time period. So in order to allow the shipping container on the property or a trailer, let's say in a future year, someone uses a trailer instead of a shipping container for some similar business, it would need that added to that site specific zone. Again, that's unique to that property. As part of the drafting of that zone, it is possible to put in a screening or fencing requirement whereby some form of screening or fencing would be a condition of that use.
Follow up there. Is it possible to issue this as a temporary use permit to maybe bridge the timeframe gap and then maybe for longer term be able to address those zoning issues?
If I may worship through to Councillor Fraz, the temporary use permit process is not substantially faster. We still have to do notice. We have to go to council twice. So the bylaw preparation would probably, we're talking probably a difference of a couple of weeks in the grand scheme of things, 2 to 3 weeks for a permanent change versus a temporary change.
I'm just thinking that given that it is summer approaching, the season coming, 2 to 3 weeks might be a significant difference. And then maybe give us a more wholesome chance to look at a longer term is rather than just trying to cram through a bylaw change to accommodate this.
If I may,
but perhaps maybe it would be good to know from the chamber or the mover of the motion if that 2 to 3 weeks is a big deal or not.
If I may worship through to Councillor Fraz, I would have to check our OCP. The OCP only allows for temporary use permits in specific OCP designations. And so I'm not, if council would give me, well, council discusses if I could have a few moments to look that up, just to verify whether a temporary use permit is possible without doing an OCP amendment.
Please go ahead. Councillor O'Brien, then Councillor Chandler.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
And a question for Mr. Russell before you disappear. Sorry, Blaine. A couple of things. A zoning and development bylaw amendment, anyways, as I understand it, is the proponent proposing that I understand the fee for that is like around $3,000, is it not, or to request a zoning amendment?
If I may worship through to Councillor O'Brien, if an applicant applies to the city to make an application, there is an application fee. Staff report is prepared, referral to other departments. So that is a bit more lengthy process. If council, on the other hand, as part of a council direction, seeks to amend its bylaw, which it has the authority to do, then there would not be an application fee because it wouldn't be an application. It would be a council directed amendment to a zoning bylaw.
So then as a follow-up, so then the proponent wouldn't have to wait in the queue, so to speak, as I understand. There's quite a few zoning amendments up in queue right now that is stretched out, as I understood, to about 10 or 12 months.
There are a number of zoning amendment applications in the queue. That is correct. Any direction that council provides us takes priority over when council provides direction, that in the queue of things that takes priority. We are your servant.
Yes, I get it. But if it was a council priority to put through, I would be unable to make that decision without actually having the report from you. Your recommendations and so forth, which would be, are in always greatest detail as to ramifications, whether it affects the OCP and so forth. So anyways, so thank you for that. I'm having trouble with that. My other question is the shipping container on the site is a little difficult with me, as Councillor Greer mentioned as well. We got the Parksville Museum right next door, and the Parksville Visitor Center looks great, even with those great Adirondack chairs in front. So I think this shipping container would definitely take away from that. It's well maintained, as mentioned, the entrance to our city. I'm not sure that this location is the right location. I understand totally the intent of it. The location as such does not really seem conducive to electric bike rental, only for the fact that I know that and that highway entrance to get from there with hopefully the tourists or the renters would be going into the city of Parksville to enjoy everything there is in there, or even to Raft River. But I know that it's to travel down that highway that has no bicycle lanes nor sidewalks even. It's definitely a death wish for people on bicycles. It's a very dangerous corridor until perhaps the intersection at the log cabin store gets remedied. But until that time, I'm just not sure that this is a great location for this. I applaud the Chamber of Commerce for doing that. It's a needed business, but I think that a better location, maybe safer, would be more benefiting the community and the Chamber.
I'm going to go to Councillor Wilson because she hasn't spoken before. So.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did have my hand up at the beginning and you acknowledged me, but you forgot me.
I apologize for forgetting you. I don't know how that could ever happen.
I don't either. So I guess, I think this is a great idea, but once again, I'm concerned about the trailer shipping container. I love shipping containers and they can be really decorated in really cool fashion. However, just some shipping container might look a little odd. So I think the idea of landscaping or fencing or something around it might satisfy the concerns that we all have about the visual, taking away from the visual of what is there already. I don't know about whether or not it's my place to speak to whether or not bike rentals are going to be appropriate there or not, but I think my biggest concern would be shipping containers or trailer and how that's screened. So whatever happens with that, I don't know whether maybe we need to defer this and have more time to get some information from the Chamber. But I don't have enough information yet.
Councillor Chandler, if I may just interject for just a second, just because Councillor Wilson brought up a really good point. I just need to know, would this be subject to development permit?
If
Would
I may,
this site be a development permit of any sort?
typically a P1 type zone would not, it's an institutional use. So it wouldn't typically have a form and character DP. If I may indulge council to bring up our city map, unfortunately, my Wi-Fi is not great. We can look and double check. We can also be able to confirm the temporary use permit. It'll take me 2 seconds here. I apologize. I just need to verify 2 quick things on our map. Once I agree to our disclaimer. Okay, so chamber properties here. If we bring up the official community plan, 2 things we're going to look at. One is what future land use designation it's in, and that's important because of the what do I call it, to know if a temporary use permit is possible. So when we look at this, it's showing it's in this community use designation. When I look at the temporary use permit areas that are supported in the official community plan, they're the following OCP designations: downtown commercial, highway commercial, mixed use, tourist commercial, shopping center commercial, industrial, and agricultural. and community use is not on that list. So in the case of this property, a temporary use permit, we wouldn't be able to facilitate that without amending the official community plan. Would not. As to whether it's in a development permit area. So as we can see here, form and character development permit areas, nothing's showing up. And that's because under legislation, form and character are basically multifamily, industrial or commercial type activities, but institutional activities aren't subject to it legislatively.
I was hoping that we could have put that in as a development permit process, but it's not going to. So that's where I was going. Thank you very much for that input. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to answer a couple of questions in regards to the space and the container and things of that nature. I'd gone down and had a fast look at things after I had this request. Obviously, the container is back a bit of the tree line. There is a tree line there, so it could be kind of covered by that tree line on the back. And then on the front, there could be some sort of facade of some sort put in. But I got thinking as we're sitting here talking as well, I mean, maybe there's a possibility of if we needed to, of putting this container on a trailer. I'm not suggesting that's the perfect thing, but if we have a problem with that for some reason, then maybe that's a way to get around it. But outside of that, I think that the chamber would definitely make the property look good. They would put the signage up that's required and be sure that it looks appropriate to the building and the structure there. So that's what I know through my discussions there. So I hope that helps clarify a couple of things for people. And at this point, I'll head back to your worship.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wilson, you have another question?
Oh, thank you, Worship. It's not so much a question, but given that I think a few of us around this table need a little more visual information, if you will, I'm wondering if we could defer this and ask that we get some visuals on this project so that we can make a really informed decision. So I understand the disappointment in Councillor Chandler's face right now, and I know it's a worthy project, but I also feel that there are a few unanswered questions. So yeah, I kind of think that I need a few more visuals and some kind of way of screening this to make it work for
Did I
everyone.
hear a deferral?
Yes, you heard a deferral.
I need a seconder for that deferral, Councillor O'Brien. Let's make that discussion on the deferral.
Just wanted to mention that I appreciate the point of the deferral there to get more information, but recognizing that this is a couple month long process, this is just starting the process, and through that process is where we'll get that information. So deferring it till we get more information, I think it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because it's going to have to go to public notice, and it's going to, as you mentioned, have to go through quite a lot of stages. So I think over those months, we'll have more than enough chance to have our questions answered. It definitely isn't giving an approval today. It's just kicking it off.
Councillor
Just to
Wilson.
respond to that, that's fine. As long as we will get that information, then I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure that nothing's written in stone before I know that we're going to properly screen this.
So are you withdrawing your referral? Or
Well, I guess
deferral?
I'll withdraw the deferral as long as I know that we're not approving this. We're just, we're going through the process.
It's very regrettable that we're at this situation where we have this gun to our head to have to make this decision with minimal amounts of information in a very short period of time. I would very much like to have had time to ponder this and take a look at the site and see what it's going to involve, and also have a presentation from the chamber as to what they're proposing here. I mean, we haven't heard from them yet. So first off, I don't have a problem with this motion that's going on. I'm much the same as Councillor Wilson in this case. Let's start moving it forward to save some time. But in the meantime, what I'd like to do is ask the chamber if they could make a presentation at the next meeting as to what they have exactly in mind and bring it to us so that we can have this. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And it may say yay or nay real quick by seeing that in front. So that would be my proposal. So go ahead.
May we defer that?
Well,
As simple as that. I move to defer, and if you seconded it, then we could do exactly what you wished.
I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
and I'm inclined to agree with you on that, Councillor O'Brien. But to Councillor Fraz's point, because weeks are becoming very short on this, can we pass this motion and then have next week to bring it? We're kind of moving two things together in parallel. I don't know. I would like to go to the director and ask him what he thinks about that process. I'm trying to make it so that it works with the chamber, but I also think we have to abide by our own rules here.
If I may, worship, I believe you can do both. So I believe that you could have the chamber appear at a subsequent meeting. And I believe if council wanted to prioritize, staff could prepare a bylaw. Council has multiple steps in the zoning bylaw process. If it's unhappy, to not advance the bylaw.
I'm just curious, and I may regret even asking. I see you, Councillor Chandler, but how much staff time is going to be spent on this?
The
Just a
bylaw
ballpark.
amendment's already in my head, as I've sort of alluded to things like screening and things. So it wouldn't hour and a half to make a bylaw. Like it's not.
Well, I'm kind of inclined to say that an hour and a half isn't all that much by comparison. It's only 8 o'clock. You could have this done by 10, if that were the case. Anyways, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Councillor Chandler, then Councillor Greer, Councillor Wilson after that, and then let's wrap it up.
Thank you, through your worship. Yeah, I would think we got a nod there from the chamber to come in next Wednesday, maybe do a delegation. That would be on the 20th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Whatever next Wednesday is, the
Yeah.
date of next Wednesday.
Yeah, so if that's good for the executive director of the chamber, that would be great. And I think at that time, we'd be able to answer a few more questions and potentially if any of the members of council have a chance to go out and look at the property at least, or we can all just wait for the presentation with some photos and things of that nature. So that would be great. So that's all for now.
Councillor Chandler, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Patterson, have you spoken yet? No, you haven't.
Thank you, Your Worship, but I decline.
Okay. Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's a good idea for them to come back and make a presentation next week, but Councillor O'Brien brought up some good points about the location, and maybe they could also give us a rundown on a location. I think, and I might be wrong, it is a little bit out of the way and people would have to ride the bicycles on the highway. The chamber could maybe operate the same situation, and I know they're interested in the rent fee and so on, but maybe having it down in the park might be something better. It's closer to the city and downtown. But anyways, maybe they could give us, when they come back next week, something more on the location. Good, thanks.
Councillor Wilson, then we're going to wrap it up.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just to be clear, we're not doing the deferral because we can do both.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So now with Councillor Chandler's motion is on the floor, and I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion as it was? The Councillor Greer will wake up and. Yes, you are.
As a question, if I may.
Yes.
Mayor Main, does that include the amendment to say that it would include a visit by the Chamber of Commerce at the next meeting? Is that included in?
That hadn't been included, but we can include that if you'd like to make that friendly amendment.
I'm not sure it's necessary because if they don't make it, then we just don't approve it
Right.
at that point.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? That we want to have the information before we go to this.
And
I have no
if they
problem
don't- if
adding
they
that
don't show up,
on.
We don't have the information, we don't make the decision, that the onus is on them to go that route. So I think we just keep it as simple as we can, would be my idea. So all those in favor of this? Opposed? Counselor O'Brien is opposed. Thank you. Carries. All right. I need any new business? I need a motion to adjourn. Oh,
Your worship, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I just want to, under new business, just mention that the Macmillan Art Center is having a Tale of One Urban Creek show. It's an informative and interactive art installation. This will be for July and August, and along with their one of their summer 22 exhibits. So I think this is really worthwhile. It's I'll read just a bit about it. It's in the tradition of creating installation art with a message. The OCAC and the Macmillan Arts Center are excited to present the Summer 22 exhibit. The Tale of One Urban Creek is the exploration in glass, photography, acrylic and steel art mediums of the beauty and fragile nature of our special urban places. Focusing the artistic narrative on Parksville Shelley Creek, we can follow it from its source in Arrington farmland, flowing past Little Mountain to its confluence with the Englishman River just below the Martindale Pond. So I think that this will be a really worthwhile show. I know that the artists who did the what's it called now? Robert Held, Christopher Smith, Nelson Shaw, they did the show that we had a few years ago with the salmon. So this is a really going to be another beautiful show, I'm sure. So this is July and August at the Macmillan Arts Center, just for the public to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just with Councillor Wilson speaking in that as well, I just wanted to, it went out today in our news release, and that the city will host a public works open house on Wednesday, May 18th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we'll recognize the National Public Works Week from May 15th to the 21st, which I'm sure you'll mention again. And that, but we have such amazing staff, and it's just a chance to explore and ask questions of our staff. And I just wanted to put it out there as well in case our news or anyone else picks it up. Thank you.